Today's episode is presented by Lodestar, the fee experts.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Lending Leaders. We have a great guest today, Josh Friend, CEO and founder of InSellerate, a CRM and marketing automation tool for the mortgage industry. Josh, you're saying you have a kind of a jack of all trades in the mortgage space, been around in 25 years doing a host of different things. So would love to hear about, what got you into the industry, what got you started.
Yeah, great question, Jim. Thanks for having me. So this is 25 years. I started in the mortgage industry like March. I forget what the date was. I think the first week of March, 1999. So we're coming up on actually 25 years, I think next week. Originally I came to the mortgage industry. I was a loan officer. I was 22 and got a job, became a loan officer at a place called LoanWorks. LoanWorks was IndyMac Bank. For those of you who've been around, remember IndyMac Bank. It was IndyMac Bank's first call center. So it was around the time when this whole kind of how do you use technology. IndyMac Bank at the time had automated underwriting, decision engine, so you could take an application, hit a button, and it would tell you what the person qualified for. Which was really advanced. Honestly, still advanced for today's market, right? And so I was around. That's kind of how I grew up. But around 2003, about 4 years of doing it, as a loan officer, I did quite well. I think I left. I was averaging 44 loans a month I funded, which was almost 4 times what the average loan officer at the company was doing. So I was doing really well. And I looked at the numbers, said, "Hey, I'm bringing like $500,000 in revenue every month for IndyMac on these loans. Dang, I'm making, I was making like 30, 40 grand, which is great money. And, I'm 23, 24 years old. I'm like, this is great. But I said, if I did this on my own and if I was just like 10% as good as I am, I'm still going to make more money. Let me go do this on my own.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And then I didn't just do it on my own. It's funny is, my first 20 employees. So by the time I was 27, I had over 100 employees. And, my first 20 were all people I knew, college friends, high school friends, buddies, roommates. And it was basically, I just said to them, I can't pay you right now. You're going to be 1099, but let me show you how much money I made in this industry. And I'm going to build systems. And right then I started building software back in 2003, 2004. If you use these systems and if you do it the way I tell you to do this, you'll make a lot of money. And so all my friends were like, "Let's do it." And that's really how I started my first business was doing that, was being a lender. And then the software technology brought me into, I was building technology for years just for myself. And then, the story goes on. I invested in People's Bank, built the software for the bank. The bank sold in 2018. And then I decided, well, now it's time to maybe sell my software to other lenders. And, it's really kind of brought me to where we are now. So in that mix, I ran our secondary desk for a long time. I like to do all my own trades. I used to train underwriters, loan officers. So I've done a little bit of everything now, I think, is in the industry.
You have a similar kind of origin story to me, but when I was 26 and went and started a company, I end up saying, and then I made every small business mistake imaginable. But it sounded like you hit the fast forward button a little bit. But would love to hear about those early years and what you kind of learned along the way and what lessons you still carry with you, whether it's scar tissue or muscle memory or a little bit of both right now.
A little bit of both. It's interesting. One of the things I really learned around that time was, and it's really interesting. So I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. And people ask me, should I do it this way or what do you think? And one of the things I learned at the time was it's kind of this, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, there's a certain level of that you have to not care what other people say or listen to how other people say you should do a thing. And I know it sounds strange, but like I learned that back then, which was if I was just going to regurgitate and listen to and do exactly how everyone else did what they did, I don't think I was really going to do that great of a job, right? You have to kind of have some self-confidence. And the thing about being an entrepreneur generally is how do you figure out how to do it better, right? And more efficient. And that's what I did when I was at IndyMac Bank. I sat there and I remember listening to loan officers next to me and trying to sell loans. and listen to how they pitched the loan or how they took the application or how they qualified people. And I realized, man, they don't really know what they're doing, right? Like, this is a great bank, but they don't know what they're doing and their people. Like, what are they doing here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. So when I started my mortgage company, I'm like, no, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to make the systems easier. IndyMac Bank had great technology, but just like most lenders right now, there's so much technology, but it's not necessarily like configured or really convenient for a loan officer to use. So it was like, you got all this great stuff, but let me do this differently. Let me, create it this way. Then when I started first mortgage company, I was a broker at first. And back then, 20 something years ago, the way it worked is your wholesale reps would basically come to the office, would stop by all your offices, and they would come in and loan officers would give them files. Hey, here's this deal. You price it for me. So that the normal way they did business at the time was, if you're a loan officer and you're brokering a loan, you took an application, you called your wholesale rep, you sent them the application, they sent you back the pricing. That was really how it was done. And I was like, and that was just, and everyone's, oh no, this is how we do this, how we do it. I'm like, well, that's really not efficient. If my loan officer's talking to a borrower, I don't want them to have to wait 2 hours to figure out what they qualify for and then go through all this process or call them these 3 wholesale reps, and that doesn't make any sense. And so here's what we're going to do. So I just picked 2 wholesale lenders, and here's the programs. 80% less goes here, and 80% or more goes here. And here's the programs. There's no question about it. So-and-so may have a better program over there. I don't really care because it's not going to help the customer because we may not be able to process that loan. So just something really simple as that is saying, all right, I understand you guys are used to choosing whoever you want. We're not doing that. We're going to choose one of these 2 lenders. We're going to be their biggest broker. And eventually we were the biggest seller to Fremont Investment and Loans, which I don't know if you remember Fremont, and so we just picked a horse and said, this is what we're going to do. And it worked really well for us. So you have to sometimes not listen to other conventional, wisdom. Another thing I had was I did a lot of direct mail, and I'd hired a marketing person from IndyMac Bank who had helped with the direct mail, and he had been working for me. And so I knew how well IndyMac had done with their direct mail, with their marketing acquisition. I knew all their numbers just because I'd hired their marketing manager. So a big group of the IndyMac people had left the company and decided to start their own marketing company. And they came to me and they saw my marketing piece and they said, this doesn't look like a good marketing piece. We can help you get a nice brand. We'll make you look like IndyMac Bank and you'll get the IndyMac Bank results. And I sat there and as I listened to them, I'm thinking to myself, my acquisition cost is half of what IndyMac Bank's acquisition cost is right now. Don't do that for me. I don't want that. What I'm doing is working just fine. You guys are the experts, but guess what? Get out of here because I'm outperformed. So there's a certain level of, I think, if you're an entrepreneur, it's tough because you have to listen to what people say because you have to be discerning, but you have to sometimes be able to understand the pattern and be able to say, no, this is how I'm going to do it. That was a big, strong thing is you have to learn how to trust your decisions and, hopefully you make good ones.
What I really like about what you just said, Josh, is a lot of the software you chose is not sexy, right? It's not a shiny ball, AI, Bitcoin, anything like that. You're talking about using direct mail effectively. You're talking about using phone systems. And I find that these are often the things that are most impactful. So is that by choice? How are you kind of determining the technology to fit your purpose here?
So one of the things that we really fundamentally look at here is our tagline, internal tagline, if you will, and then you see it out there in the marketplace, which is we help lenders close more loans. So the framework that we look at all this is I'm not in the CRM business. I'm not in the technology business. I'm in the business of helping lenders close more loans. So if that means I had some magic printer paper that helped them get more listed, whatever it is, we want to do that to help them. So as we look at these things, what we're looking at, it's just the whole life cycle of a customer and a loan officer and an operation. And just how do we figure out what are the things that really drive and make a difference right there and right now? What can actually move the needle? What are some real actionable things? And again, I was a lender for years, so I understand a lot of these things, especially when it comes around marketing. I understand how to remarket to people, how to read things, workflows and so forth. So what is it? What are the keys? So that's why when we built our software, if you look at some of the things we keyed in on, one of the biggest drivers in converting customers is how quickly you respond to their inquiry and how often you respond to them when they ask you for information. So there's been study after study after study showing that, the CFPB has done a study that it was 77% of loans that closed with the person who took the first application. So we know that that immediate connection and speaking to someone and then making sure that there's follow-up is really highly important. So we integrated a phone system. Was the first thing we built into the platform. So we have our own phone system, plus we integrate to, I don't know, dozens and dozens of other phone systems, because we want to make sure that that customer and those phone calls and those contacts are actually taking place, and can we automate those? And so that was like, hey, we know that if I can get someone to talk to a hand raiser, even if it's a referral partner, whatever it is, if you can talk to them sooner and faster, you're going to get more business. So our system does that, which is we're the only CRM market automation platform out there that serves the markets we serve that actually do that. All the other ones, they don't have telephony integrations. They don't have automatic dialing. And so that was like one of the big drivers. And then focusing on things around 2018, there's a lot of CRMs out there and market automation platforms in the mortgage industry. There has been for years, right? And what we saw, we went to lenders and we were selling our platform. We'd come back and we have really, really powerful marketing platform. And some lenders would use it, use a ton of it. And it was great. It was wonderful. You see all this marketing campaigns you got going on. But a lot of lenders, we look at our platform, we're using very little of it. And I was like, why aren't you using this? Like, this stuff really, really works. And as we talked to our lenders, the response was, well, and I guess I understood this from me being a lender. I don't know what to say, when to say, and how to say it, and where to say it. So I'm a lender. I'm not a content creator. I don't write content. So I guess I got to go hire someone to write me content? I mean, I don't get this. So in 2018, we really listened to that and said, wait a minute, that's really the barrier to entry of why people aren't using this? Well, we have millions and millions of transactions and tens and tens, hundreds of millions of communication data points. You have so much information. Why don't we just look at some best practices ourselves, right? And why don't I take out, this was 2018. We had just sold the bank. Why don't I take out all the message and contact strategies we use for the bank? Because I can use those and all that content and all the other content we put together. And why don't we work on it? So it took us about a year. And over about a year's time, we really fine-tuned best practice workflows. So now you were a lender. When you signed up, you got the technology platform, but you also got all this content, not just the content, but the content put into like pathways. So if it's a first-time home buyer or a low credit score or cash out or repeat buyer, whatever they're in the right journeys. And we started growing, our well over 100% a year at that point, because lenders need it. Really, they're not trying to, right? They're not buying technology because it's cool. They want a result. They want it. So how do we? So that's kind of really comes down to, is we focus on what's the result they're trying to get, and then how do we get them there?
So you talk about lenders that don't buy cool technology. Technology that is very cool right now is AI. InSellerate has an application of AI that I think is fantastic around phone systems. I think it's one of the most specific and best marketed applications of AI that I've seen yet. Tell us a little bit about how you view AI and what led to that product.
I mean, just at the high level of AI, I'm 47 years old, and I think I've been this excited since I was 12 years old. And it was like, and I was going to get an Atari for Christmas or something. I mean, it is really, it's insanely powerful. I know people have seen it and maybe play with ChatGPT, so you can understand this. Wow, this is like mind bending. But to your point, it's the applications that we've seen have not very been specific, and they're arbitrary, or people aren't fully understanding. Some people, in the mortgage industry, let's just talk about it. AI has really come down to, people are saying, let's do AI to do underwriting, and let's do data extraction, and which absolutely isn't 100%. If I was not working on the front end of this business, if we didn't do what we did, we would spend time helping probably AI and underwrite. I think that's a very noble cause. I think it's a very well used place to use AI. Absolutely. But again, no one's really doing it fully effectively, because it's still not, it's fully, that's gonna take a while to fully bake out. You can do some things with it, but when we looked at AI, which is, we've been playing with AI for, I don't know, 5 years, 6 years. I built an AI, I called it a drunk bot, about 6 years ago. And you could text with it. And it was I just built it just for fun, just so I could understand AI. Because I used to be a programmer, and you could text with it, and it would basically cuss at you, ask you what you did Friday night, and you could ask you what you wanted to drink. It was just there to basically be funny. But it was for us to understand, and me to understand kind of the inner workings of it. What's wild and crazy is when I built that 6 years ago, And a lot of these people have been building AI for the last 5, 6 years. All that stuff is just thrown in the trash now. It's all gone because OpenAI and Bard, you don't need your own models anymore. Forget that. You're not building your own model AI and your own bots. You're using theirs, and there's nothing better out there. You'll never build a better one yourself out there. So it's really interesting how it's all changed. But what we looked at was we have the phone system integration, and so we have phone calls, recorded calls. So we can either current lender's phone system, we can pull their calls in, or if someone's talking on their cell phone, we can actually record the call and pull it in as well. And more than anything, we know that you're talking to a customer. There's a lot of myths in that conversation with the customer. I mean, there's missed follow up, right? There's missing action items. There's missing tonality. Maybe someone wants to buy, you don't realize it. There's all these different things that you could be doing better. And then there's ways to more effectively communicate based off of what that call just had. So, we took OpenAI and we put it into our platform. And what's really neat, Jim, is because of how we built our platform, I can put an OpenAI into anything I want now. Like if I want to do data analytics, machine learning, like it's really easy within our platform how our system's built. So we're taking phone calls, and I think that way, and to your point, anyone I've shown this to has instantly understood what we're showing them. Like there's no like ambiguity of like, gee, how would this work? It's like, oh, that makes absolutely sense. Like, okay, so I talk to a customer, my loan officer talks to a customer, processor talks to a customer. After the phone call, notes are get put in there, all this great information. Like if it's a deal probability score, AI knows whether or not you and I, Jim, are talking about you're buying a house, whether or not you might qualify for a home, or whether or not you are looking for a home, right? So if you're like, hey, I need to save up for a down payment, it knows that you're not ready to buy the house. But guess what? You get real intricate. Maybe you're saying I'm saving for down payment. AI may know, guess what? Jim lives in Florida and we have a DPA, down payment assistance program in Florida. So in my follow-up, AI can automatically suggest, hey, you know what, Jim, I know you're saving for the down payment. We have this DPA program here in Florida. We may be able to help you with. And your loan officer may miss that, but AI doesn't miss that. Yeah. It helps things like you miss things. Like if you'd say, hey, listen, Jim, I'm going to call you tomorrow at 1:00. Well, AI remembers that, puts that in to do, so it helps you schedule a call for 1:00. Like just little small things. Let's say you're on the phone and you tell me you live in Orlando, Florida, and I don't put that in the file. Well, it could put it in there for you. Like it does all these little back end things, and so from the loan officer, it's it's super powerful, and we're excited about it. Then what I look at too is just the other application is banks and compliance. At People's Bank, at one point, we were paying 30 people to review our phone calls. We had 30 full-time out. We had 6 in-house and 30 outsourced people. So 36 people, actually, at the end of the day, were getting paid to review phone calls. And, it's a lot of money. And I was doing the math yesterday. Let's say your fully loaded costs for a bank compliance person to review phone calls, and most banks do this. Let's say it's only $30 an hour, because it's probably more than $30 an hour because of all the other stuff. Let's say it's $30 an hour. What you're paying probably to review a call, you're paying $2, $3, $4 a minute to review a phone call. And you could review that same phone call in less than 20 cents a minute with AI. And not only is it, so you're talking your ROI, like you could be 20, 30, 40 times. And not only is the ROI 20, 30, 40 times, and just like in a call review scenario, not even all this other intelligence and engagement and higher conversion. The difference between AI and a real human is this. AI, once you tell it something, it doesn't ever forget it. And its memory recall is 100% with everything. That's what's different. I think that's one of the biggest differentiators between us and human and AI is, you're smart, I'm smart. I can listen to a phone call and I can review it, but I may not remember every single detail that I can address on that call because I don't remember all those details. AI remembers it all. So there's just power there. I think it's just really, it's pretty neat.
Well, our last question for every guest is, what is your lodestar? What is your guiding light that gets you going? I saw in a post you were up at 4:30 in the morning, in the office by 5, working a full day, working out after. What drives you to do all of this now, 20 plus years into being an entrepreneur?
That's a good question. It's family. I think that's, my guiding star is my family. I think that's really important to me. And, want to accomplish something in life. I think at the end of the day, we have one chance. We're here. This isn't a dress rehearsal. Sometimes people think one day I'm going to do this thing, or in the future I'm going to do that thing I've always wanted to do, or one day I'll be that person I wanted to be, or I want to be here. So I just realized, well, there is no one day. It's like it's today. So if it's today, and you're going to do something, you might as well do it well. A good friend of mine and a group of us always have this joke, and it was more about just going out and doing crazy things. It was, if you're going to be a bear, you might as well be a grizzly. So if you're going to be alive and working, you might as well do it, right? Like, don't half-ass things. It's like, when you're doing the backflip, we all have done this. We go to the pool, we try to jump to do a backflip, right? And we get there and we're a little scared. We jump and get about halfway upside down, and then we get really scared and we stop backflipping. And what do? We backflop. We fall on our head. But if we don't get scared and we continue, we might actually make a backflip happen. So I think this is more of that, in life. We might as well, if we're here, we might as well live it.